All right, it's March 17th. Spring is sprunging. We've been in the mid 70s. It's just right around the corner. My head's a little high, I noticed on this, but that's actually a purpose for that when I bring up the quotes, so it'll all kind of fit. So the title of this one, this is a big, maybe my biggest video, but I will say that that's for me. But actually, as I looked up quotes on this subject, I realized it may be the most important topic. It just took me a heck of a long time to break through and have full realization on this. And I'll say it again, realization is so unique for each individual. And we can read things and say, I got it. There's so many things that especially on this topic, I got it, but no. I'm really, 10 years ago, I might say I didn't have it now. But this was a momentous change for me. So I just want to relay it. And it's percolating, so I don't know what's going to happen with this video either as it evolves. But I'm going to start off because I got to tell a couple stories about my brother so the title of this is To Serve Man. And I adored my brother, and he was a man that really served others. Even though he would never admit it or say it, and even when I asked him about spirituality, he'd say, I don't understand those things. But he served others in an unbelievable way. And so I got to tell a couple of funny stories. When we were young, this would have been, let's say, I think this would have been about 1960, so he would have been 8 and I would have been 6. He loved a show called The Twilight Zone. He loved that mystery and intrigue and trying to figure things out. And there was a great one, and its title was To Serve Man. That's how these are connected. And it was about a spaceship that came down to America. And these people acted all caring and loving, and excuse me, not these people, these aliens. And so this one individual finally said, I get to go back to your planet, which is supposed to be like heaven. It's supposed to be a great place to go visit. And as he's boarding, his friend figured out what the title of their book meant. And its title was To Serve Man, but it was actually, and this is how it ended, was a cookbook. And so they were bringing the humans back to their planet, but it was actually to eat them. And my brother, I'll never forget his face when we were sitting there watching. And I don't know, I just kind of went, okay. But he just thought that was the most wild intrigue. And I remember his face. It was just, ooh, 6, 7, 8 years old. Anyway, he was, just such a great man. And he just all his life. Now, there aren't times that we didn't have ego and we were doing things for ourselves. Another little funny story that just popped up I have to tell is I was maybe 3 or 4 years old, and we lived in a little house in Seattle, and it had a window that separated our bedroom. It was a 2-bedroom house, and there's a little window kind of high, how some of these things were. And it was Christmas time, and he had figured out how to climb up. So he maybe was 5 or 6. He had figured out how to climb up on the dresser, and he could just get his eyes up into the window to look down into the living room. And he saw Mom and Dad putting presents under the tree. I guess that was his great realization that Santa maybe wasn't real. But I have to get this out for my family. I've told this story, but I don't know. It's just my love for my brother. And I remember he said, Jimmy, you got to see this. So I climbed up onto the dresser, but you see, I wasn't tall enough to get above the wall to the window. And so the window was here, and here were my eyes. And he says, do you see it? Do you see them? Yeah, they're putting presents under. And I just remember going, yeah, I see it. All I saw was the wall. But that was our grand, again, the realization. I don't know how that fits in, but I had to tell those stories of someone I dearly loved and love. Anyway, now back to the topic here. This is all about serving others, and I'm going to pull it together into one of the other great mantras from Vedanta Hinduism, which is many paths, same God, many paths, same consciousness. Well, all these religions, all these paths, all the psychologies that are sound will have the basic mantra, which is helping and serving others. That's where happiness is. And this came about, interestingly, on my last video. I realized, as I mentioned the four immeasurables from the great Lord Buddha, and that was about equanimity, finding an equalness. And in it, I realized I feel foolish. I'm embarrassed to bring this up, but this is how much it's taken me many years to realize that the happiness is in serving others. And it's just that realization. It took a lot of working through things to start seeing the purity of this. But it occurred to me in that last video that I was talking about applying the four immeasurables, caringness and happiness for others and joy for others. I was applying that or mentioning it only in meditation, but it should be applied in all aspects of life. And that started to open the door to really all of these things are about, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's in your prayers, maybe it's in, well, anyway, apply it in life. So, as I was meditating this morning, it just got so clear that that's serving others and helping others, and how broad a spectrum that was. And that's really was always there in life. And in fact, when I became for self only, little s self, that actually created a dissonance and a problem. Let's put it that way. So let me just bring up these quotes. I think they're really fabulous. And you know, if you I just Googled this really quickly this morning to find some of these quotes, and they're just thousands of them, because this is what matters. This is what they mean in, and I have it right up in front, giving up self to gain self. Sometimes they say all of this is giving up the focus on this little guy and getting the bigger picture. So whether you call that worshiping God, consciousness, self-realization, it's all the same thing. And yeah, so let me just go through these quotes. I think this is really powerful stuff. So here they go. Gandhi, the best way to lose yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Y'all know how much I love Gandhi. The great Lord Ramakrishna, the man who works for others without any selfish motive, really does good to himself. Boy, there's just so many quotes that just keep popping up on the power of all of this. The same way in Vedanta Hinduism and Buddhism, you hurt another, you're hurting yourself. So there's this all is one aspect. And if you're helping others, what's happening is I think it was Vivekananda that said, you just change the wavelength, you change the focus off this. It's like the direction of everything was here, and you make it there. You make it outward. But these are all just words. You get the basic concept here. Vivekananda, it is only by doing good to others that one attains to one's own good. Lord Jesus, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others. You've been given these gifts, so serve others. I wish I knew the Bible things. I put it down here because this was in the quote 1 Peter 4:10. I'm sure all the biblical folks and Christians know exactly what that means. And I'm sure that there were so many quotes of serving others. The great Buddha, our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. If you light a lamp for somebody, it will also brighten your path. I will tell you that I get emotional when I've had a few people say that these videos help them. And I will tell you, there was another quote, and I believe it was, anyway, it was on Vedanta Hinduism. But it doesn't even matter if I say it was Christianity or Hinduism or Buddhism. But it was about a great yogi, and his quote was, he knows that by putting out one thought of love, that it's affecting others. And that satisfies him. Anyway, so this is all about serving others, and I am so moved by all of these things. And so what happened was, as I was meditating, and I'm not trying to belittle myself. I'm just saying, wow, it took me a long time to realize or see that in a way my meditation was little less self-serving, and that every time I thought of others, like meditating on the four immeasurables or helping others or wanting others to be happy, that's when I felt better. So again, serving others helped me, helped the bigger picture, however you want to put it, but it aligns to all these great quotes. I'm just going to leave them there. Yeah. So the man, like the Ramakrishna one, the man who works for others without any selfish motive really does good to himself. Now, I will tell you too, that part of this equation was, and I'm going to tell you some stories of others, not just these great religious leaders, but of others that I've worked with or been around, where I've seen this in application. And I've actually struggled. It's starting to come clear now, though, that there were activities I was engaged in that you might say were, maybe they had ego. I even mentioned them before, like doing these Ironman races. But I will also tell you that there was a serving of others. I know that there were, my wife, for example, was very happy that I stayed healthy by working out, because it kept me around. The body lived enough to continue to be able to help my family. I know that my business partner, a great friend, I love him dearly, used to say he didn't understand exactly why, but whenever I would start training for a new race, his family would benefit, the business would benefit, things improved. So there can be, I guess I'm trying to just draw the picture that it's not just serving, improving life can be serving others and the individual, a little less self too. That doesn't mean it's all ego driven. So these were just a few stories, and again, I'm going to get into my father. I talked about my brother, now I'm going to talk about my father. I never once heard him talk about himself or wanting anything for himself. He was 100% serving his family. And I wish he passed away at an early age, and I missed the opportunity to talk to him. We just, right before he passed, started to discuss spirituality, and he was very spiritually motivated. He was raised a Christian Scientist. But he was very interested in spirituality and psychology, and I just wish we had that opportunity. But my point is, he was always there to serve his family. And what a masterful job he did. Unbelievable. So, and when I have memory of him, it's always his joy and satisfaction. He had the most beautiful smile. My wife mentions this big picture we have, and it's just this beautiful smile. And I know that his joy was from serving others, serving his family. Yeah. Yeah. I will tell you, I worked with a man that I believe represented karma yoga. And karma yoga is how you can gain self-realization through serving others, through serving. That also can be, I'll get into that in a second, but serving and worshiping God can be seen by serving others. And he could maintain, here's a tie-in to some of my other videos, he could sit in the middle of a hurricane and not be bothered. He was equanimity. He just very powerful. And to me, that's karma yoga. And that is a pure oneness with others and a pure love of others. And I cannot help but imagine that he gained joy and peace by that. He was a perfect example. And brings up another point on how, again, there's many paths to the same end. We all have to follow our unique path. And I would say that was karma yoga. And this next story is a path of pure worship and pure loving of others. And I had a friend that I grew up with only for about 4 years, but what a great man. And I saw him a few years ago, some 50, 60 years after we were friends, but that friendship lasted. And he told me, wow, he told me that every year, I believe it's every year, that he would travel, and he's a dentist, and do dentistry for those that just didn't have any money. I even believe I hope this is the factual one, but if memory serves, he went to Papua New Guinea, pronouncing that correctly. I know my brother went there too, to visit, but this dentist went there to help the tribes people that were losing their teeth. Wow, talk about serving others. Never received a penny to do this. It was just in service of others, and man's a great Christian. And boy, that is what's called bhakti yoga. That's being able to gain self-realization, oneness with God through the serving and worship of others. That's one of the great paths of Hinduism, bhakti yoga, love and worship. And the previous one on my business friend was karma yoga, which is work. Through work and servicing others, he gained self-realization. So I'll say that I don't think there's a bit of a calmness that came out of this, because I realized that I can't force realization. All I can do is continue to try to help, continue to try to help and serve. Maybe these videos are my little path. I don't know. I do get great joy. This is a funny one. I clean up this little 1.5 miles of the bike path near our house. It goes along the lake. And I started this during the pandemic, and I felt like, ooh, this is some great service. I knew it was just a silliness, but I did have this gal who I see, with my wife and I are walking, and we see her maybe once a week. But a few years ago, she was the first one that actually thanked me. And I remember she was standing on the bridge and gave one of those heart things, thank you for cleaning the path. But it wasn't that it gave me ego or pride for it. It was this realization that it gave her joy, which gave me joy. It was this, what's the word? The synergy, the oneness, her joy was my joy, and maybe my joy was her joy. And so I call myself the garbage man when I'm out there cleaning the path. I'm not looking for anybody to thank me. It was interesting. And so now whenever we see her, we have just big smiles. I don't even know if she knows I'm the garbage man, but There's no force to it. We just continue. And what a great path to serve others. And that is a path to self-realization. So there's all of these paths. Yeah. And I guess I won't really go beyond that. I hope I'll probably review my methods of meditation, but I don't think it's going to change. I think it's just working. I think how I meditate is just working. And the evidence of it is how it broke me more out of ego and out of the little less self, more into serving others. And maybe that's also why Jesus and Ramakrishna both, and all of them, say the path is love. The path is oneness. The path is bhakti, caringness for others. That's the easiest path. So, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Isn't that a great one?